How's it going, Mary Contrary?
Oh, it's good, Starfish. How are you today?
You know, having a day with electronics and stuff. I think something's in the air. I don't know. Russia. Let's just say it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we've put together a bonus episode today because I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there right now. It's the springtime, and we're all wanting to get, into the summertime of fun, like enjoying our backyards.
Woo.
Enjoying our houses, right? Working on some of those projects that we've put off over the winter months. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, like home maintenance today. Because a lot of people, I feel like, they end up getting stuck in doing things that are like unnecessary, or they get ripped off by certain companies for certain services. So I just wanted to kind of clear some of that up today.
Great. So my family's the kind who we wait till it's broken and then we fix it. We don't maintenance. We're not great at it. So that's probably not great either.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that's how most people nowadays live because we're forced to with everything that's happening in the world and our stagnant wages, right? So, but anyway, like if you're lucky enough nowadays to own a property or own a house, I just wanted to talk on some few things that could help avoid some disasters as we go along from personal experience as well. So,
fun.
So I'm going to start with the heating system. So, I don't know if like people out there, because you always want to make sure that you're changing your filters regularly, right? Like that's like the number one thing to keep your heating unit going and your air quality good. So I bought into these, I forget what they're called, but they're a certain type of metal filter. Like they look real heavy duty, like they'll last forever and all you have to do is spray them off. Well, the thing is, I used that for, I think it was like a couple years, like I was using it and I'm like, oh, this is great. I don't have to like throw those away because I don't like throwing stuff in the trash, like I have an issue with that, with the wastefulness.
For the environment.
Yeah. So anyway, I was using this thing and what ended up happening was it was so dense that it put a lot of strain on the heating unit, like the fan and everything. So it actually blew the fan motor out of my furnace. Yeah. So that really cost a pretty penny. And I went with one of those big companies that you should probably never use, by the way, because they have such a huge overhead. They make their customers pay like twice of what it should be. So I always recommend if you can, try to find a real local company for your HVAC needs. Like find some local guys. Don't go with the big companies because I feel like they're just there to either rip you off and tell you that you need to, we've all heard the term, oh, you need to get a new furnace and this is going to break. And, they pitch people like that too. And, unfortunately a lot of people, they don't know any better because they don't know anything about their furnace and cooling system. So they listen to these people and then they end up spending like thousands of dollars unnecessarily. When quite honestly, like if you just have it looked at, every year or two, just have someone come out. Like it's usually like around $80 to have someone come out and inspect your stuff. Just to make sure that everything's working correctly. Like they'll test, that the temperatures reaching the appropriate temperatures and all that. And and just getting those cheap filters and just, once every quarter or once every month, however, if you have a lot of pets, you might have to replace the filter more often. But, all that kind of stuff is just things that you can do. And a lot of times when I have these like small town companies come out, they'll show me how to do stuff too. Like, so then I can, if you're more of like a DIY type of person, like then they can show you how to do certain things. Like they showed me how to clean the flame sensor because I had issues with that. And all you have to do is just get some sandpaper and clean it off every other year. And that, because it was just not kicking on like it should because the flame sensor was it had a lot of debris on it.
debris.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Like just little stuff like that. You know, and honestly, I just had them clean out my furnace and my air ducts, and I asked both of the companies, because I use the smaller guys, like, how often do you need to do that, right? Because everyone always wants to know. And I would say, like, they were telling me, like, the vent guys, they said you know, they know that I have 4 dogs, which is a lot. They said probably every, like, 3 years that you would do the vents of the house. And because I was thinking it was like yearly, and it's expensive to do that. You know, they do charge like it's around $700 or more to do, like, depending on the size of your house. That's how much mine was, but it's kind of a lot, you know, to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking like every 10 years.
I know, right? Well, and some people do that. Some people don't even do that at all. You know, like it just. But I feel like if you want your systems to work, you know, and last. I think those are things that you should pay attention to. And if you want good air quality, if you have a lot of allergies, it's probably a good idea to, you know, clean the vents fairly regularly. And then the furnace itself, I've seen a lot of these big time companies, they charge like a ton of money to clean out the furnace because they take the whole thing apart and clean it. Some of them will charge like $100 or $1,200 for that. And the small guy company that I paid was like, it was like $700. So it was almost half the cost, to clean that. And they said to do that. Now that's one that you would do every, like, I think he was saying like 5 to 10 years, like the furnace. He's like, it should be good.
How much does the furnace cost?
Now that too is something to keep in mind. I think it depends on the unit. I believe they're anywhere from like 2,000 to like 10,000, depending.
And how long do they last?
You know, usually they last like 15 to 20 years. Some of them last longer than that.
I feel like if I did the math on this, that the jerry rig way, you're maybe not getting as clean air, but you're probably spending. I mean, I don't spend any money on my furnace. The only thing I ever do is change the filter, and I barely even do that because I only do that because
right.
One time it wasn't working and I called somebody, one of the big guys, by the way. They came over and the guy was like, "Oh, you just need to change your filter." And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
He was nice. He didn't charge me money. So that was really nice of him. But, you know, that's the only thing I do because it won't physically work if you don't.
Yeah, it'll clog up and stop working. So yeah, you definitely, I mean, that's like the bare minimum of what you want to do with an HVAC system. And then, you know, if you have air conditioning or lucky enough to have that, you just go spray it off in the fall, like the outside, to keep all the debris off. But like usually those companies, they'll come out, they'll clean your air conditioning unit and the furnace at the same time for that price. You know, they do like an acid bath. And I mean, it's a good thing to do just to keep your equipment, you know, running so that you don't have to spend like thousands fixing a dead motor or replace the entire unit, which is a lot more. So I just feel like, you know, with stuff like that, it's just a good idea to, like, you know, have it checked every so often. It's not something that you have to do like all the time, but, you know, it's just something that could save you money in the long run, just from my personal experience with that. And then, of course, like, you always want to check all your plumbing fixtures and make sure that those are like okay, because a lot of the, you know, when I moved into my house, a lot of them were old. The main shut-off valve to the house didn't even shut the water off all the way, we found out. So, during a leak. Yeah.
Scary.
Oh yeah. So it's like, you gotta just, you know, inspect those things. And if it's like, you know, more than 20 years old, maybe you want to look at saving up to replace that part and find like a you know, local plumber, not like the big companies again, because they just want to come in and make as much money as they can off of you. And just, you know, just little tiny things like that, you know, just pick, like, what I like to do is I pick like 1 or 2 projects a year that I work on, like little home improvement projects. Like I'll, you know, I upgraded my electrical box last year, you know, and just replaced all my old outlets that have been in the house for 40 years. You know,
that'd be
just
so
stuff
nice.
like that. It's just like little tiny projects, and a lot of them are for safety too. You know, like all the plumbing stuff that I did, that's all so preventing flooding, you know, preventing electrical fire hazard issues. Just like little stuff like that you can do.
How much do you set aside every year for this?
It depends on the project. Some years are less than others. Like last year, it was like $600 for what I had him replace, like a fan and do some outlet and electrical box work.
So you don't say at the beginning of the year, I'm only going to spend like $1,000 or whatever.
Right. Like I just pick what I would do is just pick like if you can, like one small project or maybe even two small projects, or one small project and one big project, maybe, just like try to budget for that. And this is just so that like you can avoid expenses later. And I mean, I have to admit, I'm probably more anal than most people are with like maintenance. Imagine that. So,
well, like I said, in my family, we sort of wait till it breaks. I mean, my mom's septic system broke, and she had, they had to dig it all out. It was horrible, but it got it fixed eventually. She's gonna have to fix her roof, but then she wanted to refi her house, and they wouldn't let her because her roof was outdated. So she had to put the money towards it. So it's just like, it's like a not planning version,
right, yeah.
It's more like a crap, where are we going to scrape together this, $20,000 all of a sudden kind of problem. And oftentimes it means, borrowing or something. But sometimes we just work extra hours. We go pick up shifts or whatever. I'm thinking not of me, but of my family, because I have families who work in the trades. That's the other thing. It's like my, father-in-law is in construction or in HVAC, and my brother-in-law is in plumbing, and even my grandfather and my dad, they grew up in construction, and my brother's in construction. So I don't know. I've always known people. I'll just call them up and be like, hey, can you come fix this? And, they're not, some of them are professionals, and some of them just do it because they refuse to pay somebody else. But yeah, that's like the struggle, when you grow up with that kind of family and that kind of way of doing it. Like we could hardly ever get, our families to maintenance their own things, because that's what they do all day, so then it was just never in our minds to even do that. But as I've gotten older, I've tried to rely on them less.
Yeah.
Because they don't do it every day. And, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's like up to your personal preference, but I mean, just me personally, I just go through a list of things that I do. So another thing that I'll do is, a lot of people don't know this one, or they don't do this one, is flushing your water heater once a year. And you can do this yourself. I mean, there's YouTube videos you can watch and do it yourself if you want. I'm just not a type of person that likes to play with gas. So I usually have my plumber come out annually, and what he does is he'll drain the water heater, and the reason we do that is to prevent the buildup of all the calcium and stuff in there, to make them last longer, is basically what you're doing. You're just draining out all the water and then just flushing it out once a year. It's like, that's all you kind of need to do. And like, he'll inspect it and make sure there's no leaks or anything. So it's always a good thing to do. And then while he's doing that, he flushes out my sewer line, because a lot of houses that are older, like I would say like 40 years or more, like 30 to 40 years old, they were still switching over from like cast iron piping, which is not the greatest, because it causes root systems get into those and like just cause problems. And then you don't want sewage backing up into your basement. Trust me.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. So it was terrible.
Yeah. It's really like something you can avoid, so I make, like he said, because I called one of those big companies, and of course they're like, oh, you need to replace this. It's going to be $10,000. And my plumber's like, I could probably get your line to go for at least another 20 to 25 years, just cleaning it once a year. Just putting a brush through it and cleaning it out while you're doing your water heater flush. So it's just it just makes it convenient and easy to do stuff like that. It doesn't cost a ton of money. It's just little maintenance-y things that like you hope that don't cause disaster in your home, basically.
Right.
So it's just little stuff like that, just, you don't have to like spend a ton of time doing this stuff or anything. And honestly, I talked to my insurance agent. So speaking of roof stuff, so she told me, I think after a certain period of time, I want to say it's like 7 to 8 years into having, let's say, your roof redone, they actually start charging you more for homeowners insurance because of the roof's age, which is totally dumb, right?
Right.
So
I need the money to replace the roof. Now I got to pay you more.
Right. So it's like, it sucks, but that's kind of how homeowners insurance works. So what she recommended, she's like, I have a couple of roofers we work with. If there's any like weather damage to your roof and they can determine that, then you're like, we'll cover it, but you'll have to pay your deductible. So you have to be careful, you know, what type of homeowners insurance you have too, because like that can burn you as well with certain things, you know. So I think
it's like the world's out.
It kind of feels that way, really. It's like you got to think about all these things. So now I'm like, well, what am I? You know, I don't really want to get the roof inspected right now because it's like hail season's coming up here. So
just pray for a really bad hailstorm, and then you can just call them
and
right
be
up.
like, okay, here's $1,000. Replace all of my roof now that it's been damaged. So
yeah, right. It's cheaper than $25,000 they quoted us.
So it's just like. It's just kind of crazy stuff, you know? So it's like you want to inspect your roof probably in the fall, you know, just to see what the damage is or what you need to do. So it's just crazy.
We should make like a list of things to check so that, you know, we can avoid of the costs, the extra costs. I know, because
like it's like once you are like, and I'm going to say this because it's true, privileged enough to buy a house in this current world, then it's like you, on top of it, have to look out for getting ripped off by other stuff. You know, like Right. I had a tree trimmer disaster happen at my house, Starfish. I hired this guy to come trim my trees because, you know, that's another thing too. It's like if you have big trees by your house, like you want to make sure, yeah, this is a good one. So we have to talk about.
No, it's just it's the way you're saying it. He came to trim your trees. Anyway.
Yeah, he did all right. But like, because I didn't want, you know, the trees to fall on my house in a windstorm or something to happen.
Right. Or somebody else's house.
So I picked these like kind of shady guys off of this website, and they show up and they're like out there cussing up a storm, you know, and just like making a mess out of my backyard. And it was like 2 to 3 hours into this, and he comes around the front of the house and he's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to leave for today. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, my friend, he has like a brain injury. And I was thinking like he hurt himself on my property, which is like a whole nother ball game, right?
Right.
And I guess he had like a previous like TBI. And so I was like, okay. And so then I go back there and look at like their work, and it's like total mess. Like I'm like, there's no way I even want them to come back. So I called him and I was like, all right, I'm going to pay you for the 3 hours that you were here, but I do not want you to come back and like touch anything. Because it was like a total mess. He's like, well, we took some of the debris away. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice. You know, I'll pay you for that. And then that's it. And then I found out later he wasn't licensed, which is another issue. So that like you want to avoid that, make sure they show you their certificates. Because like if they get hurt on your property, then it's on you as the homeowner. It's not on them. So that's like another shady thing I've noticed too with like hiring.
That is so shady.
Extra people. I know. I finally just found a normal tree company that like I'm totally happy with now. Like they've know what they're doing. So, but like it's just stuff like that, you know, that you just have to constantly be on the lookout for when you're working with like these third party people too. Like, cause it's very easy to get ripped off and scammed by them too.
Yeah.
You know, they'll overcharge, or they'll, you know, only do like half the work and charge you full price. Like you just have to be very vigilant on who you're hiring for this kind of stuff.
Especially, of course, women.
Oh yeah. Like they're going to take advantage of you, you know, especially old women for some reason. Like, you know, they love to just overcharge them for stupid stuff because they don't want to, because they're more vulnerable, I guess.
Right. So, right. It's so
I know.
messed up.
So it's just like, you know, these little certain things that we don't think about every day that, will end up costing you quite a bit in the long run. So it's like, you just got to make sure you find your people. And it takes me multiple quotes most of the time and multiple tries to find the right people. Like I hired this like crappy landscaping company and they just like totally did a crappy job and charged me way too much money. Like the plants that they put in that I wanted them to put in, they all died. They were like,
oh my goodness,
a lot of money too. Like they were expensive plants. They were like, I don't know, $70-$80 for a plant. So it just kind of sucks when, you're paying these people to fix something and then it ends up being worse. So
I have a sister-in-law who does horticulture too. She has a degree, so I just got lucky with the trades in my family.
Well, see, you have all the people now. You can have them come over and do your heating system. They can do your landscaping, starfish. Like
they've already been helping me,
and for free.
For free. They do it for free because they love me. If I just, I don't know, like the heating is the best one to have because that one goes out on a whim.
Right. Yeah.
But I think in that way I feel a little bit lucky not privileged necessarily. That's interesting, like that word. But I don't know. I think it's like, I just call somebody up. If I need a new car, we just like put the word out and somebody will find a car for me. It always happens. I just like somebody will just go find a nice, good used car. I've never had to find a car in my life, like once, I think. Yeah, I know. It's like my husband's friends are really good at finding cars. My brother before my dad passed, he used to be really great. They just see him around town and they're like, hey, that's a good deal. And then they can check them out. I think I've had a lemon like once,
right.
And it was the one I picked out at a freaking car dealership. That was the worst one. So, total BS. Car dealerships.
I know, right? Yeah, that's a whole nother, I'm sure that's a whole nother bunch of episodes we can talk about.
Oh, yes. Oh, I think we should definitely talk about that one. I think we have some other fun bonus episodes coming up about other things, but I do want to do a little bit of a plug for a story in the future that I want to talk about mechanics because my family's mechanic and that one is near and dear to my heart. So some advice there and some way to avoid scams.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
Thanks for the great the homeowners
tips. Yeah. So just be careful. I just recommend people just find, smaller companies to work with. Get 2 or 3 quotes at least anytime you have anything done, just so you can see the different price. I know it's a pain in the butt, but it's totally worth it. I do it all the time. And a lot of times, honestly, like I have found, and maybe this is just the region that I'm in, but if I go out and look at Google and Yelp reviews a lot, you can tell what kind of a company it's going to be.
I was going to say, that's a really helpful tool, too. I mean, I go and read the worst of the worst because they can pay people to give them good reviews. So go read the worst reviews you can find and see if they have like a pattern in them.
Oh, yeah.
It's like consistently doesn't finish work or something like that. The other thing I recommend is asking around. If you go to somebody you do trust, a mechanic you trust or somebody you do trust and say, hey, I know you're busy or do you have anybody else or do you have a friend who does this other thing? Like one time somebody recommended me to a mechanic. They were the best mechanic ever, you know?
Yeah.
So asking your friends on Facebook or whatever, asking around because that is, that's the way I found a lot of good people too. Who for my family members who don't have those traits, I have to go outside sometimes.
Right.
So
anyway. 100%. All right.
Okay.
Well, good luck with all your spring household needs, everyone.
Yes. Good luck.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to Real Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We look forward to having you on our next one.